listening into the man who will push the trigger. All preparations in place, but this is what he has to say.
Obviously I'm nervous. मेन दिक्कत रहती है जब एक्सप्लोजन होता है तो कुछ ना कुछ फ्लाई करता है. जैसा था कि यहाँ जो कंक्रीट में हम लोगों ने एक्सप्लोसिव फिट किया है, जो कंक्रीट में एक्सप्लोसिव फिट किया है, तो वो एक्सप्लोसिव काफ़ी हद तक फ्लाई करेगा ड्यूरिंग द एक्सप्लोजन, और एक्सप्लोसिव जो फ्लाई करेगा तो वो आसपास की बिल्डिंग्स को हार्म कर सकता है. सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज एडीवीज के पास यही था कि सबसे पहले इस एक्सप्लोजन के टाइम इस कंक्रीट को कैसे कंट्रोल किया जाए कि ये फ्लाई ना करे. वहाँ इन्होंने उसे 4 लेयर्स ऑफ आयरन मैश से इसको पहले कवर किया है. उसके बाद ये जियो फाइबर है, इसकी भी 2 और 3 लेयर्स लगी हैं विच विल कंप्लीटली कंट्रोल द फ्लाई ऑफ कंक्रीट.
So yes, there's a team that is working hard the last couple of months to really go ahead with this big demolition. Remember, 9 seconds, those are very, very crucial 9 seconds that we will be looking at perhaps at 2:30 p.m. So we've been speaking to several experts, the engineers really, the men of the hour who will be going ahead and pressing that button to demolish the Twin Towers. More reactions coming in.
Well, the almost 100 meters tall Twin Towers will be pulled down in the middle of a residential locality, a thickly populated one, and individuals who've been given the task, this daunting task, are joining us on the broadcast. We have with us Joe Brinkmann, who in fact is the managing director of Jet Demolition, and we also have Kevin Smit, the senior manager of Jet Demolition. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. I want to begin with you, Mr. Brinkmann. You're also called the Master Blaster. You've seen several tall towers crumble right in front of you. Can you help our viewers understand the process that is going to be followed when it comes to the Twin Towers?
Yes, well, on a large structure like this, it's built in a high seismic hazard zone, so it's built very strong. So what we've had to do is do a very careful design to make sure that we will rupture the right structural elements in the right way and in the right sequence. So that's done by first stripping out the building of unnecessary internals, walls and so forth. Then there's lots of holes drilled. In this building there's 9,642 holes. And then those holes are charged with explosives, and they are all linked together with an initiation system so we can get the right timing and sequence of holes firing to burst the columns. So it's quite some process, and it's based very much on engineering and a great deal also on experience. So this process will take in total about 7 seconds for all of the holes to fire, and then the entire process from first movement until all of the debris is on the ground will take just about 12 and a half seconds to complete.
You know, I was reading somewhere that the crew members have had to climb 30 floors every time to check the positioning of the explosives. Yes. Repeatedly they had to repeat this process because even a bird might disrupt the procedure. Is that right? And can you also you know, talk about the precision with which it is going to be carried out?
Yes, well, it's always possible that some animal will come through and chew through some element of the initiation system, but to counter that, we do have redundancy built in. So if there is any particular link which has been severed, there's always a backup link. It's quite uncommon, but it has happened before. But that will be checked thoroughly again tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock right through up until about 12 o'clock. Everything will be rechecked for the 3rd time. So we do make sure that everything is fully functional before we fire the shot.
Absolutely. Kevin Smit, can you help us understand the kind of explosives that are being used? Also, given the fact that the Twin Towers are located amidst a thickly populated residential locality?
So, if I understand your question correctly, we'll be mostly using PTN explosives and emulsion explosives with a non-electric detonation system.
What about the safety measures? Because like I said, it's a thickly populated residential locality. There are a lot of concerns about, you know, the impact on the adjoining structures, Mr. Smit.
So, Mr. Joe Brinkmann, our entire methodology is based around the safety of the people and the surrounding structures. We have gone through a great length to ensure the safety of the surrounding structures and to ensure that there's no flying debris that may injure some civilians. So we have 5 to 6 layers of protection to ensure that everything goes well.
Right. Mr. Brinkmann, whenever, a demolition of such a nature and on such a large scale is carried out, there are always concerns about the immediate impact on the environment. Was that taken into consideration? What is the immediate impact that we are looking at, and what are the possible solutions that the team provides before, of course, going ahead with the demolition and the use of explosives?
Okay, well, if you look at all the effects on the environment, there's first of all the noise side. There's a large amount of explosives going off over a short period of time, so that generates over pressure in the air. So that has the potential of causing damage, like breaking windows perhaps if they're too close. The other environmental effect is vibration, the impact of the structure as it touches down to the ground, and that is mitigated by forming a stream of particles which impacts the ground over several seconds, as opposed to having one large mass impacting it in one go. And then, of course, there's the dust, which is inevitable from this type of work. You simply can't stop it at source, but the dust is comprised primarily of calcium, which is the main ingredient in the concrete. Unfortunately, calcium is a very good nutrient for the soil, and it's included in most fertilizers, in fact. So the dust cloud will dissipate. Tomorrow we should have winds of about 15 k's per hour. So that should help the dust to dissipate and fall down to earth. And it doesn't cause damage to plants and so forth. So there's really very little effect from the environmental side from the implosion.
All right. Mr. Smit, is there also a risk of aftershocks when such demolitions are carried out?
No. The initial little vibration will be created by the implosion itself, and there will be no aftershock whatsoever. So hello?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
So I'm not aware of any aftershock in the implosion. There will be a slight vibration that's created by the building, but not the explosive itself, by the building coming down and making contact with the ground, but there will be no aftershock.
Mr. Brinkmann, what will be left behind is, of course, tons and tons of debris and rubble. How long does it normally take to clear that off?
Edifice have planned to clear the site within about 3 months. So the concrete will be broken up and recycled, and the steel will be also separated from the concrete and also recycled. So you're looking at nearly 100% recycling rate from this building.
Can you also help us understand the prep that goes in before such a large-scale demolition is carried out? Of course, the controlled explosion, and I'm sure the maneuvering, the movement is predicted before that happens. But tell us about the dry runs that took place.
Sorry, we just had a burst of wind here. Would you repeat the
I just want to understand from you the preparation that happens ahead of a demolition of such a nature, about the dry runs, the mock drills, if I can put it that way.
Oh, the mock drill before to evacuate people, is that it?
Yes, and the preparation that goes in.
Yes. Well, the preparation, it's quite a process to interact with all the various authorities and the people who are affected in the exclusion zone. So here we're clearing out people between about 250 to 450 meters from the site. And they are notified ahead of time, and there's detailed planning done with the authorities, especially the police, which will go around and actually check that everyone is clear from the buildings. There's the utilities, the water, the electricity, which is being turned off. So all of these liaisons have to take place and interactions with the people affected so that all of the creases are ironed out and everything flows smoothly tomorrow. So from 7 o'clock in the morning, people will be evacuated, and then we'll have the checkpoints, which will all have radios and contact with us at the blasting point, so we can make sure that the entire area is clear. We'll have drones flying around as well to look for any persons who should not be in the exclusion zone, and if they are there, that may delay the firing time, but we're hoping not. So we are planning to have everyone out and clear by 2:30 when we can fire the blast.
Mr. Smit, can you throw some light on the safety measures that have been taken? Of course, one cannot control the movement of dust, but we're being told that there are several layers of iron mesh that have been put in place already.
So the steel wire rope, the placement, the protection that we put, I can hear myself speaking, I'm so sorry.
Okay, we'll try to resolve that. I would like to take that question across to Mr. Brinkmann. If you can take that question, Mr. Brinkmann.
You're talking about the protection of the blast itself?
Yes.
Yes, well, what we have done around every column that has an explosive charge, we have multiple layers of a very heavy steel wire fence. Then around that is multiple layers of a heavy geotextile fabric. So that expands when the explosives are detonated, so that the concrete and the steel within the column are ruptured, but then contained within that protection envelope. As a further precaution, we then have a layer of material around the outside of the building to catch any small particles that might have escaped from the column. And then as a final layer of protection, the surrounding buildings have a geotextile curtain placed over them, which will protect them from small particles which are forced out and carried with the implosion wind, we call it. As the building collapses, it forces the wind out, and that can carry small debris with it. So those curtains on the adjacent buildings will stop those small particles from impacting the facades and the windows of those buildings.
All right, Mr. Brinkmann and Kevin Smit, thank you very much for joining us in the broadcast. All the best to your entire team. Thank you very much for giving us your time.